What's up, guys? It's your boy, the essential John L. Crossfire, aka the real main event, aka the Rogue Soldier, and today you're about to learn firsthand just what it's like to be caught in the crossfire. But above all else, prepare yourself, because in this very moment, today, right now, you are about to be caught in conversation. All right, we are back. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to what is now episode 66. It is currently 6 p.m. as we record this. We've time traveled, and you guys aren't going to hear this for another week anyway, or week and a half, depending on how you look at it. Week and a couple of days, I don't know. What is math? I am, of course, once again joined by the one and only lovely, as always, beautiful Mrs. Crossfire.
Hello, everyone.
And once again, I'm going to hit the song of the week and the match of the week before we go on what is undoubtedly going to be probably another rant. We are both semi-crashing from the caffeine, but as Mrs. Crossfire yawns, but still pretty amped up, still pretty full of adrenaline, especially after what we just watched. But the song of the week this week is going to be God's Country by State of Mind, featuring Drew Jacobs, because I've spent this entire day listening to it and singing it and probably driving Mrs. Crossfire mad. And I've actually made an executive decision as we record this. The previous episode, and obviously by the time you hear this, the other one will be out, so it doesn't matter, but we mentioned the other episode. The previous episode now is going to be called Only Wrestles in the Building, seeing as how we went on that big Triple H rant. And this one will be Room 609, but of course, because I'm a man-child, the zero is still going to be in brackets, because it's the little things that make me laugh. But it seemed fitting given the movie that we're about to cover and the show that we've been binging and just finished season 2 of, as we glossed over in the last episode. But the match of the week, because we did just watch The Black Phone, which we're about to get in and discuss, and his mask is fucking awesome. The match of the week this week is The Fiend in his original debut versus Finn Balor at SummerSlam 2019. Still probably the coolest entrance that The Fiend did all up. It was almost like he had this really cool entrance, and in a lot of aspects it did unfortunately go downhill. Some would say buried, as I mentioned in the previous episode. Hopefully you've listened to it by the time you listen to this. I think that term is overused and frankly misused, but that's neither here nor there. But Mrs. Crossfire, we've just come back. We've watched The Black Phone. There is going to be spoilers in this because that's going to be the bulk of the episode. So if you see the thumbnail or read the description and yada, 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 and then still complain about spoilers, then frankly, that's on you. But it was based in, I should have looked up the actual year. That's what I was meant to do before I hit record. But it's late 60s to early mid-70s. And I said this on my personal Facebook, but you can tell where a lot of their inspiration did come from. But I said that to you just after it finished, but it was also still unique enough to like it could be its own thing. But I said on my personal Facebook with my friends and family, I said, quote, "God damn, The Black Phone is a fantastic flick if you like thrillers / drama. A little predictable and some very obvious inspirations from other thriller / horror flicks, but it was covered with what was fantastic action. There was a couple of scenes that were acted so well that do kind of make you cringe and shake your head and think, what the fuck?" But kind of funny, though, that the only jump scare that actually got us was one that we did still see coming. Yeah. Like, it was so obvious, like, okay, the guy's going to pop up here, and it wasn't the killer that popped up. It was obviously the whole premise of the movie is he can see and, I guess, talk to the previous victims of the, what did they call him? The grabber, they were calling him. He's preying on young boys, which sounds really fucked up, but I guess it's a horror movie, but he's toying with them and then killing them. And the whole premise is the phone is disconnected, but due to white noise and whatever else, the guy uses that phone to talk to them, and while he's talking to them, he can see their ghosts. And we thought that the killer was going to pop up, and all of a sudden, he's this dude with his throat cut. It was like, whoa, okay, so I think that was the shock. It was just that you knew someone was going to be there, and you're expecting the mask to pop up, and then all of a sudden, it's like just this ghostly thing. So it was like one of those things, I don't know, maybe we're just sooks, but the only jump scare that was so fucking obvious still fucking made us jump. Yeah. But before we dive into it too much, I don't know if you want to go through the whole film or what, or in order, or just jump around. It's up to you. But we both watched the trailer. What, probably 3 weeks ago, maybe a month ago, and we both said that we were toying up between that and Elvis, and we're like, hope to God that is still in the cinemas when I have my eye appointment, because we had the Hoyts vouchers, and I think I've still got one, you've still got one, but we used one today, and it was like, no, 100%, we've got vouchers, we'll go to the movies. That's definitely on the list, and
like, but I still was kind of like, I don't know if I'm going to be into it or not, but then, fuck, it was good.
It got far more emotional than I don't want to call it a horror, but it's still only borderline thriller. It's more of a drama than anything. That's why I said thriller/drama in, I guess, more official critique on my personal Facebook, but it had no business for a thriller being as emotional as it was. Like, I think, and I don't know that you actually seen it, and if that's the case, we'll change it, but A Quiet Place. I'm yet to see the sequel, but I watched The Quiet Place at the Belconnen Hoyts. And for a film that's silent, it's one of the most emotional fucking movies, like horror movies that I've ever watched. And it's not quite as good as that, but really good. And as I said, the acting, like especially for like most of the main characters are, teenage actors / young adult actors, and they had no business for. I've never heard of them before, and maybe it was their first role. Maybe they've done little stuff, but they had no business portraying those characters anywhere near as good as they did.
Yeah. Like even the dad, he did some fucked up shit, and like it was a bit like triggering and shit. But like he did really well as well. Like
basically, it's revealed in the trailer that the boy, he's of course one of the victims, and his sister. Even before that, she's got some sort of, I guess, psychic ability that she actually inherited from her mum, who revealed that her mum actually killed herself because of the voices, which is like, it was already emotional enough at that point.
Yeah,
and then
it's kind of like she got psychic abilities, or is it more like schizophrenia?
Yeah.
Because like she killed herself.
So the dad beats her because she says that she's telling lies and blah blah blah, and it's more in a really fucked up way. It's revealed at the end that he was doing it because he didn't want to lose her, and it's like, I didn't think I could sympathize with that kind of shit, but it's the turnaround at the end, just the way that, again, the acting. There's some very obvious references in this movie. There's a kid. I literally looked at Mrs. Crossfire and I was like, okay, Bruce Lee. And then there was a fight scene and I was like, what the fuck? Like, what in the Mortal Kombat is this? Yeah. And then he reveals that Enter the Dragon's like his favorite film ever, and he's basically trying to be Bruce Lee. And then they actually mentioned Texas Chainsaw Massacre by name, which they had a couple of references to that in there. But the black balloons, obvious reference to Pennywise.
And then the little girl that was in the rain.
Towards the end, where she finds the house, she's riding her bike in the rain. She's got the raincoat. The ghosts actually appear in front of her because she's having some weird vision while awake. And then
I think the guy being upside down was giving me Exorcist.
Yes, he's floating kind of. Yeah. But there's probably more. There's right at the end, the killer turns out he lives with his brother, who's an unemployed cokehead, and I'm really sad that he didn't come in towards the end, because he actually was one of my favorite characters, and he was in 4 scenes, but he comes in, puts the axe to his head, and I literally looked straight at you and I was like, Friday the 13th, and it's just so weird because, and there was another scene as well where he popped up kind of in the shadows, or even the one we were just talking about, the jump scare, the kid almost popped up similar to how Michael Myers does in the original Halloween, and it's just so weird that we watched this, because on the way up on the train, I've downloaded season 3 on Netflix of The Movies That Made Us, and they literally went back to back to back of having Halloween, Friday the 13th, and then Nightmare on Elm Street. I believe there was a kind of semi Freddy Krueger-ish reference there. I was getting vibes from The Mask anyway, again, it's horror. Everything's going to be makeup and gory to an extent.
Well, I mean, the girl was having the dreams, so...
Oh, yeah, you could even say that. She's having nightmares, but I didn't put that together. But it's just so weird that we literally watched those on the train. We went back to back to back on Tuesday when we came up here. Yeah. And then we watched this movie now, and it's it's all fresh in our mind. And it's here's this reference, and here's that reference. And it's just... I'm not going to say it's my all-time favorite horror movie or thriller movie, but
it was nice.
I would 100% watch that again. Whenever that drops on Netflix or Stan or whatever, I'd give it a watch again, 110%.
Yeah, I think for me too, the guy that was playing the grabber his mask was very devilish version.
It was like
a cross between like Nightmare Before Christmas. I can't think. One of the kids with the mask.
Yeah, Lock, Shock and Barrel has like a demon mask. It's like
kind of like that kind of mask. And then it was like, but it meets like the Green Goblin. And then he was giving like William Dafoe vibes of like the way he was portraying his character.
It was almost like a very, the mask, the way to describe it would be like a Japanese style, like demon to look at it.
Yeah. Kind of. Yeah, I could see that.
Like I can't think of the word off the top of my head. My mind's just gone blank. And I should know because
I think it's like Shogun. Or maybe something like that. I'm not 100% sure. Something like that.
I'm thinking kaiju, but that's not it. But it's similar to like. Anyway, it's something similar. But O'Shea Edwards, who was, as I said, I'm gonna change the name of this episode. This is Room 609. The other one now is going to be Only He Wrestles in the Business, but it's a wrestling podcast. It's going to slip in at some point. O'Shea Edwards actually wears a very similar mask to that to the ring.
Yeah, I know what you mean now.
Yeah, it's like a Japanese like style like demon. And in a way, it almost like, even though it was like it's almost like, what would you say, flesh colored? It's like an off green or like a weird olive, but it kind of reminds me in a way of the demon from. And people are probably going to look at me and put them side by side and say they look nothing alike, but I can find the littlest things. The demon from Insidious, the first one, it looked very similar. It's just obviously a different color, but I guess if you think demon, you've always got to have the same kind of like image to an extent. But I just absolutely fantastic. I'm blown. Like I was literally mind blown, and like the even like the music scores at the end, like that's a big thing they touched on in the movies that made us. So maybe that's why it's making me pop, because it's fresh on my mind. But right at the end where, you know, as I said, we're going to jump all over the place. The brother finds the kid and he's like tries to save him, and then the grabber comes down, hits him with the fucking axe. Dude's head explodes. Well, it doesn't explode. You don't really see it, but the blood splatters everywhere. Yeah. And then
I thought he was going to hit him with a shovel because he was at like the hardware store.
Yes.
And you see all that in the boot. Like it was just really well put together.
And then it turns out that that's from where he's like buried like the other bodies, which they find because the girl sees the house in her dreams. Turns out the reason she's seeing that house is that's where the bodies are, and they go there and they can't find anyone, but the grabber literally owns the house directly across the road, and they're identical, and the girl mixes the numbers up, and it's just this like
the boys were taking her to where
to the area sort of thing, because she was going to the actual ghosts, because the ghosts, spirits, whatever you want to call them, were kind of guiding her to her brother. It's just fucking like,
it was really cool. Yeah,
I don't know what it is. Like, as I said, like we just finished watching season 2 of Only Murders in the Building, and I don't know how long I have to wait. I think it's like June next year, I think they said, for season 3. And I'm so keen for that. But I was mind blown. Like we both watched the trailer and was like, you know, let's give it
a crack.
And people have, again, this is why I don't listen to actual critics or film scores or whatever, because the people have said that it was too predictable, this, that, and I agree. Like you kind of worked it out, and as I said, the inspirations super obvious, but again, the acting just
I'm a weird true crime buff, and just I liked the little he drops the groceries and the ruse. It was very Ted Bundy like. You know, it was just really interesting to kind of see that's how they were portraying him, and it was like giving that
like
vibe.
they did their research though.
Yeah.
Like people can say like, you know, they've plagiarized, but they managed to twist it in their own way, as I said, to make it original. And it's interesting that you said like the Willem Dafoe thing, because he actually kind of sounded like him, and then the color of the mask. But then before he had the mask on, when he had the face paint on, so you couldn't actually
he looked
real
a bit
quick.
like
I love that at the end where it was almost like a Phantom of the Opera thing. You literally only saw his actual face one time in the whole movie, and it was literally for a split second, because even when he died, he landed face down.
See, that's why I was sitting there going, hey, has got split personality disorder.
Yeah, because at first off,
he was calling him Johnny, and I'm like, why is he calling him Johnny? Of all
it's just like Little Johnny or
and I thought
Little Jimmy.
I thought maybe Little Johnny was like his name, and it was like his father used to do this weird fucked up shit to him and lock him in the basement. I'm like, okay, it's going to be like Freud crap, and he's one of those kind of like serial killer guys.
Because when you first see his brother, it's the same thing. He's all coked out because his brother was investigating it, and it's like, hold on, is he wearing a wig with the mask? And it was just like, that split second, and then you realize, oh no, this is going to happen, and blah blah blah.
Because it just seemed like he was coked out of his mind. I'm like, oh, so he's got split personality. That's how he deals with shit. I was reading into it real deep, and it wasn't even that deep. Like, it just made.
I'll circle back to my original point though, just before I do that though, that scene where his brother, of course, racks another line of coke, and then he just has that realization that, what the fuck, like something's going on here.
Yeah, he's looked in the area where he's looked because we're jumping all over the place, but literally the cops.
As I said, there's going to be spoilers in this.
The cops knocked on the door and they were there, and it was like, oh shit, and then it's kind of like
the camera pans
downstairs, and there is the kid. Like, what the fuck? Like, it was just crazy.
It was just this really weird.
I'm like, fuck, it's him. He's like got multiple personality disorder. I was getting right into it. It was like, fuck.
So there is a couple of times where you're like, oh, could it be? But then towards the end, like in the last probably half an hour, you're like, all the pieces are there. You're like, cool, this and this and this is going to happen.
Yeah.
But
so
again,
in ways, it wasn't that predictable. Like, I was predicting shit that it was deeper than the surface.
Yeah, but still more predictable, I guess, than most, I guess, even true crime people, like true crime or thriller horror, like probably more predictable than like the real big buffs would like. But as I said, the acting just, I'm repeating myself, but I'm blown away.
The way it was really well pieced together too for me. Like, I keep saying the same thing, but like,
I'm going to crack a can of Dr. Pepper here.
You had the kids, right? You had the kids crossing the road, and then the van just drives past. Yeah. Like, the littlest things were just, it's like Triple H with his little side note-y stuff at the moment, going back to the last episode. But yeah, it's just like, it just blends really well.
Dexter Lumis in a WWE Studios thriller.
Yeah. Oh, man. It'd be so cool.
I've switched from coffee to Dr. Pepper because I'm a healthy boy. But, so the reason I keep circling back to the acting is that, as you said, Willem Dafoe vibes, but when he's got the face paint on and he says that he's a magician and blah, 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 I was almost getting a gothic version of Johnny Depp's portrayal of Willy Wonka. That popped out to me in the trailer, and even just that split second, it was just, I don't know the dude's name, I don't know if I've seen him in anything. If I do see him in anything from now on, that's probably all I'm going to think about, because it's like, there's the whole first impressions, right? And for a first impression, as I said, like, crack record, but
they did really well.
To sit there and be able to weirdly relate to characters in a horror film, like even at the very start where what's his name? Was it Robin or Robert? The karate kid guy. I think it was Robin.
No. Oh yeah, Robin was the
karate guy, and he there was a bully. And he was trying to fight him, and he's trained in like martial arts. It was almost like an actual karate type kid thing, where it was like, he's trying to call his bluff, but the bully still swung, and he fucking destroyed him. He did a thing where he had him in like almost a hangman's neck style, hangman's neckbreaker style, ravishing Rick Rude, Rude Awakening, and he was squeezing like the pressure points to weaken him, and then you fast forward to the end. And that's how old mate, he beat the shit out of the bully. But that one scene, it was probably 2 minutes into the movie, and I was like, holy shit, that got intense quick. And then it was this callback where the kid has the phone cord and literally chokes out. Obviously he beats him with the phone, but the actual kill comes from strangling him. He snaps him with the phone cord in the same maneuver, and I'm like. It
was just all beautiful pieced together.
It reminded me of wrestling in a lot of way. And you even said the kid, they're like, what? They're like, why did you just keep hitting him? And he's like, well, the crowd like that, the more blood, the better. You got to give them their money's worth. And you were just laughing, and you're like, fuck me, like this kid thinks he's a pro wrestler or something.
Yeah, like there was a guy, he got up to go to the toilet. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? Because literally you're gonna miss shit.
He was gone for 10 minutes, and so much happened in that 10 minutes.
Yeah. Like, I felt like it's a type of movie that makes sure you go on the toilet before you freaking, see it, because there's so many little bits, and they all intertwine.
And that's why I want to rewatch them, because they say every time you watch a movie or a show, you always notice something different in the background. But especially with something like this, like little clues and Easter eggs. And granted, I'm a blind bastard, but going back and just seeing things like kind of in the corner of the screen, or you know, something, you know, just
one of the kids, Billy, he was a paper boy. He rang up the phone, and it's like his spirit was talking to him through like the phone, talking to the other kid, Finn, talking to Finn, and
that's
like,
the main character's name. I couldn't think of it for the life of me.
Finn.
I was thinking
Johnny,
because you said
Finny
little
boy,
Johnny. Yeah,
Finny boy all the time. Yeah. But calls him on the phone and was like talking to him and stuff, and saying how the screen door, if he was to get out, it had his old bike lock.
Yes.
Old bike lock on there. And the code was 22, I think 71 or something like that.
It was 23317.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
And then it was similar to what the actual
the address was 7714, which is what the girl saw.
Yeah.
But the kid was locked in 7713. So
it was
a very similar number almost.
Yeah, so it was kind of like very similar, and it was like just little things like that. It was
like
just
they're not exactly completely parallel, but they're close enough to where you can be like, hang on
correlate.
A minute.
Yeah, it was just so good.
That's something that I know you for offers. Like you're a big true crime, like just crime in general. Like it's not always true crime, like Bones and Numbers and Chuck and all that stuff.
Yeah, and I'm a little bit kooky, and I like my witchcraft and stuff and witchy shit. So it's like the psychic stuff kind of like frothed me a bit as well. So it's like I'm a bit biased, but it was pretty damn good.
What do you? How do you do movie ratings? Do you go out of 5? Do you go out of 10? Do you go out of 100? Like, because I honestly,
usually when I watch a Today Show or something, they do it out of 5.
I 100%. Like, I'm not going to say it again. It was perfect because there were some things that were kind of too, not even that, but just not plagiarized. But it's like, okay, that's a reference to that. Which, in a way, maybe that's what they're going for. Like, here's this ode to like the thriller or horror films of the past.
I think it's to pop people.
But I think it's still like the black. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. But like the black balloons, and then there's the raincoat, and it's set in like a certain kind of time period. And I get it, but one thing that did pop me though quickly was when the kid was watching like the old 1950s horror movie where it was all black and white, and then there was like randomly a bathtub full of blood, and that was the one thing in whatever movie. Like I don't know if that was a real movie that he was watching.
It looks familiar, but I can't tell you what the name of it is. It just looked familiar.
It was dope, and it was just executed really well, and the soundtrack.
Oh yeah, the soundtrack was good.
If they put like the full soundtrack on Spotify, or even if they release it on CD, because I'm old.
Pretty good.
I'd buy it.
Yeah.
It's that mid-70s like rock, and it's just I was there for it. 100%. Like again, I'd honestly go a 9 out of 10 if I was to rate it.
Yeah.
Like it was. I truly think it was that good.
Still pretty good up there. For me,
maybe 8.5 at the most.
Yeah, I'd probably go 8.58, and it's just mainly because I'm being nitpicky, where I watch a lot of thrillers more than horrors and stuff.
Yes.
Like horrors, I'm just like, cheesy gore. I've got to be in the mood.
Yes.
But like thrillers, I am like froth thrillers.
Like cheesy zombie movies are great, but you need to really want to watch them.
I'm a little bit more harsh and biased, where I feel like I want to be on the edge of my seat, biting my nails.
And that's why I said I think
I was a little bit there. Because I was like, ooh, like, has he got 2 personalities? Like, I was on there a little bit, but I feel like I wasn't fully on the edge of my seat, if that makes sense.
I think, I'd probably maybe go an 8, maybe an 8.5, but I'd be open to stretching it to a 9 because, again, some of the references, some of the references, maybe they did do it intentionally, but it's kind of open for interpretation because on one hand you're like, that's too similar, but on the other hand you're like, oh my God,
I appreciated it, yeah.
But yeah, I think the main thing is I've kind of lost what I was saying now. But like, oh shit, what was I saying? I was talking about like the references and stuff, but the jump scares I think is the issues. It wasn't. It needed to be more. I think that's the. Thank you. I'm not even going to edit this out. That's what it was. It was thrilling, but because of all the obvious references, it's like I popped for them, and maybe that could have been their intention. I don't know, but it's like I feel like they should have been hidden a little bit more, and more suspense is the word I'm looking for, because again, there was a couple of scenes that could have been jump scares. Only one of them got us, and again, I still think it's funny that it was one that we did see coming, but then all of a sudden it was a different character that we hadn't seen, and it was like, oh fuck, where did he come from? So it was still a jump scare, but I feel like there should have been more suspense, I think is the word that I'm looking for.
Yeah, well, I was getting There was one that I feel like wasn't super obvious. I don't know, this was just what I was getting, and because we watched those movies that made us and made me kind of think of it. But I was kind of getting like a Jason, like Michael Myers kind of vibe.
Yeah.
With the dream she had about the guy as well, because you've seen his face in her dream too. He's standing next to a tree. And it was giving me the vibes of, it was just like how Jason just pops up.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that.
It was like Michael Myers.
But that was kind of side on, though, wasn't it? You didn't really see the full frame, did you?
You did, because he's sitting there, he's just standing there straight next to that eerie tree.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And that door.
Yeah, so I was looking at the tree and the door.
Yeah, and for me, because I was trying to remember.
I don't know if that's ADHD or if it was me trying to look for details, but I forget now.
And I was like, there were the three elements, because the way they filmed it, it was door, him, and tree, and it was just filmed really well as well. Like, looking at it creatively from that standpoint, it was like he was the middle thing that I looked at. I really focused on the door, which ended up being a bigger point later down the track too.
I completely forgot about that, but the dream she had with again, I've forgotten the name, but this kid, like, what was his name? Was it Lance or Vance? I think it was Vance. It was like, he wasn't a bully per se, but he was just like this rock and roll kid that was kind of giving me, like, I haven't actually seen Stranger Things, but he was giving me vibes of Eddie. He was like a rock and roll kid, and he was playing his pinball machine. He came so close to beating his high score, and then these two kids were having a fight and bumped into him, and he turned around and fucking stabbed them both and got arrested. And then it goes to the little girl, and it's like, it's her seeing what happened back then in her dream, and she's sitting in the police car from her vantage point. Obviously no one can see her because she's dreaming, and I love that she screamed out Finn's name, but it was silent. It was a silent scream because of the context of where she was.
And had Finn talking through the radio.
He was talking on the phone, but the kid was talking to him through like the cop's CB, and his voice was coming through the CB, and that's how she was hearing it. And then that's when she sees the house and yada yada yada. But I just
so like that's where I thought that they could add a bit more suspense, where she tries to go in the house or something like that, or to the window, and the guy's just, even if he was just looking out the window at her, like, I felt like that would have just made it that bit better. You know,
like, she's a kid, right? So, like, I know she's frightened, but fuck, knock on the door, right?
Yeah.
Just something. Open the gate and have him just be like, have the dog go off, and he's like, what's that? And she runs because the dog's, and even if he doesn't see her, she's like, fuck, like, that was close. Like, what have I done? Right?
Or even if he hears, like, you know, he like sees, like, hears the dogs going off, and he just looks out, like, comes and opens the door and looks out the door, and she's just hiding in the bushes or something, just like, and he's got the mask on, and she's just like, shit, that's the guy from the dream. Like, that would have cemented a bit more.
I love the subtlety of that, actually, now that you think of it, the way that the characters, like, intertwined and complemented each other, because the dog really was introduced in the first scene as the brother was, when the cops came to the house to ask him, because they were just door knocking to see if they'd seen anything suspicious and yada yada yada.
Yeah.
The dog's going off. He tries to calm the dog down. The dog went off when the kid originally escapes the house, and then his brother's like, what was he barking at? And he's like, I don't know, stupid dog, probably, you know, barking at his own shadow, or whatever he said. I can't remember the exact quote, right? But then you fast forward, one of the ghosts says, hey, I destroyed this place when I was here. That wall's been replastered. Smash it in. There's an old freezer. There was one single piece of steak still in that freezer.
And I was looking at that.
And then at the end, when the guy, because, you know, by this point, you know, Finn's pushed him. You know, he's overcome everything because his dad's abusive, and he's just had enough, and he's like, look, if I die, I die. If not, I'm going to get out of here. And he was going to feed him to the dog, and then that one single piece of steak, he throws it, the dog moves away from the door, and he just walks up the steps and walks out of the house like a fucking badass.
It gave me chills. It was just
and again, like, the music score to that when he walked out.
Yeah, well, even like the character progression that they did for him, the character progression was amazing, because you look at it, he starts off like this little wimpy kid that's getting bullied, his father's abusing him, he's abusing the sister, all of that.
He was literally watching his dad, like,
beat his sister, and he didn't do anything about it. And then this just brought out the strong side of him. And then at the end, they just got like that fist pump friggin' moment. Me and you were like fist pumping, and was like, yeah, because there was a girl he had a crush on that was kind of like his lab partner before he got.
The ending of the movie. I don't even know if there was any ending scene because the lights came on straight away, and usually that means there's not. So it literally ends with him sitting down in his class next to the girl he has a crush on, and she speaks to him first. And she's like, hey, Finny. And he's like, no. Call me Finn.
Like, he's the man.
And it was like,
you the man.
It was some serious big dick energy. And that's literally how it ends. And the lights came on. And I literally went, yes. And like threw my fist in the air. And like a couple of people that were in the cinema with us laughed. Because it was just that I think it was the music score and everything.
Yeah. And for me, I don't know, like it was giving me, like, I haven't seen Stranger Things, but I've seen a lot about it because it's TikTok.
I'll probably watch it in like 6 years' time like I did with Breaking Bad and Sons of Anarchy.
But, like, he was giving me, I can't think of the kid's name.
Yeah, one of the main characters, actually.
One of the main characters. I can't think of his name in the show, but I think his name's, like, Finn. I think his name is Finn, like Finn Wolfhard or something like this. Someone can tell me anyway. But, yeah. Like, it reminds me of his character, because he seems like a wimpy little kind of dude. But, yeah, it's really good.
Like, I know, again, much like the previous episode we recorded earlier today, which will be last week by the time this one goes out. I don't know if we're making points or not, but you guys need to watch this movie.
And I'm really sorry, like, we pretty much just told you everything, but, like...
As I said in the last one, though, like, this is going to be basically not a full review, because we're not reviewing it or full breakdown, but just go watch it and see what you guys, like...
I told you a lot of stuff.
Let us know, like, what you noticed that we didn't, or what your favourite part was, or least favourite part. But 100%, I reckon it's worth the watch. Go to the movies, buy a ticket, have some popcorn. Mrs. Crossfire still has her drink because it was way bigger than we realised it was going to be.
Like, jumbo sizes one.
I forget that Hoyt's is actually generous, because I was like, there's always the joke about, spend $100 and that's just the movie ticket. But I was like, fuck, $30 for a large popcorn and 2 drinks. That's a bit crazy. But then you just get this massive, like, the popcorn literally lasted us the whole movie. And when we walked out, like, I only just finished my drink before we got in the Uber back home.
I swear that's at least nearly a fucking litre. Like,
that is an insane amount of drink. And Mrs. Crossfire is actually drinking Mountain Dew, so she might be crashing now, but I'm assuming when the football starts later tonight, she's probably going to be extremely hyperactive. And I also bought some Stonewoods, no sponsor there, but fantastic pale ale. I'm very fussy when it comes to beer, but Mrs. Crossfire and I are very, very fond of that one.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
And the question is, though, we are in a hotel room. However, we are lucky that this hotel room, it has a couch. And it does fold out into a futon. So the question is, which one of us will be sleeping on the couch tonight?
I think it's you, buddy. And I think Samuel can agree. Eels fucking sucks. Like...
how fucking dare you?
It's alright. The couch is there. You're a good one.
But I just... Honestly, 100%, like... It's kind of like a filler episode in a way, but I was like, I was like, fuck it, let's just, we'll talk the shit, and if it's really bad, we'll have a lot to talk about, and if it's really good, we'll have a lot to talk about, and here we are.
Because we're on a wrestling podcast, we have to mention the reference where I was like, wrestling brother, where you have that Karate Kid.
Yeah, that's what I said just before. I mentioned it when he was like the more blood.
Yeah, the more blood. It was giving me like deathmatch. That kind of
he's like, I was just gonna wail on a little bit, but just wasn't enough.
It wasn't enough. You've got to really give the audience that thrill factor. It was like, fuck yeah.
It was dope. And the way that he was like just taping his hand up with like in the bathroom, and he's like, that motherfucker had sharp teeth. He's like, my hand was bleeding the entire first period.
For me, what I felt was unbelievable is they show him so strong and shit, and it's like you're looking at it from a wrestling perspective. They show him so strong and he beats up those kids and stuff. And I get this guy is older. He did gas Finn, so he probably did the same with this kid. But why is this kid randomly just, unless he saw the black balloons in the back of the guy's car from a distance and went over to kind of like fight him or what? But like you see him, Robin, actually walking over to this black van. So I was like, fuck. So part of me was kind of like, fuck, is that the kid's dad or something?
Well, I thought it was going to be his mum, because he was talking about how his uncle was the one that showed him Texas Chainsaw Massacre and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And that was my very first one. I'm like, oh, hang on. I'm like, is that?
Yeah.
But no, it's just.
At one point when we first
Sorry,
seen.
you say that way we can both talk into
That's
it.
okay. Yeah. So the first point there, another point that I have. Sorry, I'm stumbling all over my words because sugar rush. Anyway, so
Shiny.
yeah, I was kind of having it like a crash, and now I'm full of fucking sugar again. But yeah. So another thing for me was he was playing games with the kids, and it was like naughty boy or whatever they were talking about.
Yeah.
And it's like once he escalated to a certain point, he'd kill the kids.
Just to preface, it's not like as perverse as it sounds like. There's nothing sexual or anything. He just enjoys torturing them because he's fucked up.
Yeah. So if they be naughty and shit, like this is what makes me think psychologically he was abused as a child.
Yeah.
Freud shit, psychology. Anyway, but yeah. So for me, I felt like it could have been his dad. Because you have the belt scene and he's getting hit. His sister's getting hit with the belt. And then you have that naughty boy thing.
And there was that scene where he was sitting at the top of the stairs with the belt. And it literally looks like the dude's dad without, like, obviously, you can tell the difference, but the symbolism, I thought that's where he was going to snap. I thought he was going to come out then and just wail away and fuck it up on himself. Yeah. So again, like there is a couple of things where you don't predict 100% of the thing, but a lot of it kind of falls into place as it goes along, though.
Yeah, yeah. So it kind of keeps you guessing in ways.
But I did like, and that is a very wrestling thing though, like the shock factor, where again, this is where I'm going to sidetrack before I make my point because that's what I always do. This is why I love about horror movies. Like we can joke about, Jason having like 12 or 13 fucking movies and look, some of them are good, some of them are bad, some of them are so bad. Yeah, look, Jason in Space is fucking terrible, but I'll watch it 10 times on Sunday. Like it's so bad that it's good. But
like Wrong Turn?
I've actually never watched that one.
Yeah, it's just...
But like you could do a prequel on this, right? From what made the grabber fucked up. But then you could even do it like from, as you said, I'm pretty sure it's Robin. It could be Robert. If I'm wrong, I'm sorry. I think it's Robin. Yeah. But like, what as you said, what made him that kid? Because he's just walking down. It was like a storage shed, like a warehouse district, and he's just going for a walk. Like, was he like meant to fight some other kid or something? Like, as you said, like, did he see the van and was he trying to kick this dude's ass? Like, like how was he like led there? Like, it was just, and it was so early in the movie too, where he was just billed as this badass, and then of course he gets taken away. So the other bullies, with no one there to protect him, Finney gets the shit kicked out of him. And there's another scene as well. One of the bullies full on kicks his sister in the face, and he's like a teenage boy and she's a little girl. So that's kind of triggering, but again, it's not like super over the top, but just as a disclaimer, like watch at your own discretion. But there's nothing like sexual or anything. It's just a lot. It's very much, and again, this is a wrestling podcast, so I'll equate it to, you watch the old school ECW, right? Everyone was fucking doing flame and tails, bump thumbtacks, pizza cutters, shit that like Nick Gage and that are doing now. And then you have a guy like Raven, where guys were throwing out 100 chair shots, he'd throw one. And that one chair would make that entire arena just stop and think, holy shit. Yeah. Like it's the psychological aspect of it. Much like Tommy Dreamer versus Cactus Jack, right? No punches allowed. You can fucking set a dude on fire, you can stab him, like do whatever you want. But don't you dare close that fist, right? I dig it. I dig it. But yeah, 100% if they made a prequel, I'm there tomorrow. Like, it's one of those ones where you like, I'm hoping they don't milk it dry, but I thoroughly believe that you could definitely make some miles out of this. Especially like, even if you go like 20 years before him and that kid's do it in black and white. Do it like cheesy horror style. I would still watch it. Like,
I just wish they didn't crack his neck because he's dead.
Yeah.
But you only see one gurney come out, and it's probably the brother. That's all you see is a gurney getting put in the coroner's van. You only see one coming out in a black bag. It's like the guy could still be alive with that cheesy shit.
That's what I was thinking. But again, I don't know if there was any post-credit scenes. I don't think there was because, again, the lights came on, so you usually assume that that's it. But It's open for interpretation. It's like, did they just fucking let the house like fall on top of him and the cunt's just buried there? Like,
yeah. It just makes you wonder, like, you know, unless it's like his ghost and someone else moves in there and he makes them all demonic and shit, and then they start doing this to kids as well. Like, I know it's probably going to be boys because that seems like he has a preference, like it's like a serial killer thing. It's so weird.
It was so crazy, so weird. We're all over the place, but as I said, I'd stretch it to a 9. I'd stretch it to a 9 out of 10.
Yeah, I could see that. I feel like it, like, for me, it's still at 8.
Yeah, I'd probably sit. I'd probably officially I'd go probably 8.5, but I'm open minded. I'd stretch it to a 9.
Yeah, there's still some possibilities there.
And again, we're not professional critique. What do you call them, critics? But just our feedback, our recap, our review, if you want to call it that. But just 100%, if you guys go see the movie, or if you're on the fence about seeing the movie, go see it.
Yeah, do it.
Excuse me. And then just let us know. What did you like? What did you dislike? Because I 100% could see a fucking 2 or 3 prequels coming out of this, depending on which way you look at it. And as I said, the acting, the kids, it's only going to get better.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was good. And I liked all the different, like, little aspects of you really felt that it was that era as well.
Yeah.
Like, the late 60s, early 70s
even
because, like, the clothing.
I don't know whether they've just found a location for that or if they've built the sets, but the houses were absolutely beautiful. And this is just me being a weirdo because I have no knowledge about the technical side of architecture, but I really love looking at buildings. Like, even walking through the city earlier when we were in the Uber, we were looking at like this old not rickety, but this old bridge, and it had like tunnels in it. And from one side, I'm like, oh, that kind of looks like a mini Colosseum of Rome.
Yeah, for me, it was giving me like Brooklyn vibes.
Yes.
Like real, like American looking, because it's an American football field too.
So there's actually like a,
it's like really weird.
There's an enemy hideout in the Spider-Man game, which obviously it's based off real world New York, where there's a building like that and it's just a circle, and they're like, you've got to find them inside them, and there's like a park and stuff next to it. So it's like I can see that, like, very very New York like based stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, really cool.
But is there anything else you want to touch on other than the fact that the Broncos are going to get flogged tonight?
Oh God! Thank you.
Obviously, by the time this comes out, we'll certainly know the outcome of that.
Though, it's Reynolds 250.
Yeah, I'm a little bit concerned. I'm not going to lie. I've said this to Mrs. Crossfire. Obviously, last week as we record this, Broncos took a thrashing from the Storm at some point for what was like the 11th fucking year in a row. Yeah. And then Parramatta dominated the Bulldogs, which shouldn't be a big thing, but with how inconsistent Parramatta has been, they went from being the only team to beat Penrith to losing to the Tigers, and they lost to the Bulldogs earlier in the year. And then it's Reynolds' 250th game, so I feel like Parramatta, they're going to get complacent.
Yeah.
Broncos are going to have a chip on their shoulder. Reynolds, he's in that Darren Lockyer spot, and he's doing it better than Lockyer did. I've said that on the pod multiple times. People have given me shit about it. I'll stand by that. He's not done yet. 100% not done yet. And I'd go out on a limb and say that he's the best kicker in the entire league right now, and has been for the last couple of years, and probably will be for the next few years. He can bomb, he can grubber, he can do his soccer kicks, he can do it all. Yeah. And I'd be lying if I said I wasn't a little bit worried. But regardless, I'm not going to make Mrs. Crossfire sleep on the couch, and I hope she's not going to make me sleep on the couch if Parramatta do win. But
that's on the table.
But yeah, we bought a 6-pack. We're not going to get completely shit-faced. We're going to be respectable in this establishment that we go to every time. I'm not going to name the place because, why not? But, we're going to turn the telly on at about 7:30, which is, what is it now, about an hour away?
Yeah.
About a little bit less. We're about 40-ish minutes in as I record this. But 100% go watch The Black Phone. If you haven't watched Only Murders in the Building, and it's done the very same thing, that is one that is not predictable in the slightest.
It depends.
Yes and no. But they throw you off the scent a lot more, which I think is what The Black Phone was missing. Like, it has that suspense. And the first season, Selena Gomez's acting is kind of fucking cringe. But if you look past that, the story gets really good. And in the second season, she improves immensely, especially like in that last episode. She's done really well, really well.
Yeah.
And Steve Martin, I can't think of his character's name off the top of my head. He said that once this show is finished, so I'm hoping it gets renewed for a 4th season, just because I don't want to see him go. But he has confirmed that once, I guess they offer him fucking $300 million to do something. No, you never say never. But at this point in his career, he said that this is going to be his last role, and for how good of a show it is, why not? It's one of those things, go out on go out on a good note, go out on a home run, so to speak, rather than flopping and just fading away into the distance. But I don't know. I think I'm going to say 8.5. That's my final rating. I'll say 8.5. I'll put it in concrete because I know I keep bouncing back and forth, but I'll say 8.5 out of a 10.
Okay, I'll say 8.25.
That's fine.
I'll come up to 8.25.
That's fine. I feel like, but yeah, it's definitely recommend. I did get vibes that they might do a prequel, just the way they were kind of setting things up, but I don't know. We'll wait and see, but
would have been cool if the brother didn't get killed off.
Yes.
Or he tried to help, he twisted it where, I'm going back again, but it would have been cool if he twisted it and he was like,
yes.
Yeah, fuck yeah.
But I mean, it is possible to survive a broken neck. My pop has broken his neck literally 2 or 3 times, and we have no idea how the fuck he's still here. But I just, he kind of just slumped and assumed, but...
It sucks. It just sucks, the brother didn't...
Because I'd love to see, again, so many possibilities. I'd like to see... I know I said I'd like to see what made him that way, but if you're honing in specifically on him and the brothers, because obviously that means you've got to get new actors because they can't play child versions of themselves. I mean... They could. I'd still watch it. It'd be so cheesy that it's good. But I feel like that's a story the brothers, this clearly is a cokehead and there's something that's triggered that. And then his brother has just completely flipped. What made them that way sort of thing?
Yeah.
But
the fucking true crime buff coming out of
because the kid, the dude actually did mention when he was looking at the phone, he's like, it doesn't work. And the first thing he said, he basically
didn't work when I used to
mentioned that's obviously been an old childhood home. He said that didn't work when I was a kid, and obviously it used to be a proper basement, and he's been the one that's kind of converted it and soundproofed it himself, which he brags about. But it's why was he down there?
Yeah, and Johnny,
was he locked in their basement and stuff?
Because you never actually find out what his name is.
That's what I was thinking. Is that his name? Right?
Yeah. Because I mean, in the 60s, 70s, they used to always call kids, little Johnny. That was just
it's a thing, but it can really...
And it's it could be taken
and then
away.
Depending on how crazy and supernatural you want to go, is it the dad's fucking spirit, controlling him or some weird, shit?
Yeah.
I keep trying to wrap it up, but then new ideas hit my head.
It's the same for me, because it's as predictable as it was in bits, it's got you questioning stuff still.
The acting at the end of the day, if nothing else, the acting will fucking blow your mind, and if it doesn't, I feel like there's something wrong with you.
Yeah. Well, the kid even said that he can hear the phone, but he chooses not to hear it.
Yeah.
So it's
actually,
it's got me questioning.
That's actually, I think that's a good way to wrap it up. Where again, there's going to be spoilers all throughout this episode, but the way right before he snaps the dude's neck, when the phone rings.
And he's
it's for you.
Perfect.
Because there was a scene because Robin, obviously being one of his best friends, was the last one that he talks to help him kind of push him over the edge. He's like, you're on your own now. So when the phone rings again, they're done with Finn. They don't need him anymore. And Finn's like, hey, this is for you. And they repeat a couple of one-liners that they said where they were trying to help him, but they twisted it in a way where, especially Vance, today's the day, motherfucker. And then he snaps his neck. It's that was great.
Some of the things they kept repeating like that, and it just made sense.
Because it's echoing, because it's they're broken, they're kind of trapped away. And
so it's they're repeating things, and it just made sense. It was just icing on the cake.
That's how I'm going to end this podcast. Today's the day, motherfucker. But yeah, I think we'll wrap it up here. We've talked for...
Almost 50 minutes.
But long story short, go see the movie. please, Tar, thank you. Did you have anything you want to add before I go into the outro?
Just a little callback. Sugar, sugar, do, do, do. Because I was literally just singing that before.
Yes, shaka laka laka, all that.
Yeah.
Something I did forget to mention in the last episode, obviously it'll still be in the description and the links, but check out the link tree. It has my social media, merch, working on a new t-shirt design because that's just what I need. Yet another fucking shirt design, but hey, it's all made to order. Something for everyone, whatever. My Amazon wish list is there if you guys want to buy me those 2 microphones, but we're doing good, plugging along. I didn't even update my eye last time, but we're doing a week late. Basically, to start off with, my eye, it was healing slower than they wanted, and now it's healing better than they could have expected.
Yeah,
They're estimating. They're estimating. Well, even the other eye where the infection happened, which is my good eye, the scar's very noticeable, but it's super clean and no sign of damage. Bit of strain, but that's mainly the light reflecting off the scar. That's something that they can't fix unless they invent robot eyes and I become fucking Robocop or Cyclops or some shit. But yeah, they've estimated that at least 8 months for the stitches. My next appointment will be 6 months, so there is always a chance they could come out at the next appointment. I won't hold my breath because I got really excited and was hoping because they told me last time that we might start looking at that. But again, it went from not healing as well as they thought to in the very beginning to it's improved immensely. So that's awesome. ICW Australia will be hosting Southside Bash on October 8th and the Insane Rumble on November 5th. Links for both of those will be in the description to the event pages. Links for tickets are at that event page as well. But, yeah, today's the day, motherfucker. I am the Essential John L. Crossfire. The song of the week was God's Country by State of Mind featuring Drew Jacobs, who is actually a fantastic country singer in his own right. The match of the week was The Fiend versus Finn Balor at SummerSlam 2019, and I'm going to repeat myself now because I fucked up the outro. I am the Essential Now Crossfire, and you were just caught
in conversation.
Shaka laka laka. Today's the day, motherfucker.